Imagine this. It's midnight over the Zagros Mountains. Imagine this. It's midnight over the remote, rugged expanse of the Zagros Mountains. The sky is pierced by the silent, menacing silhouettes of American B-2 Spirit bombers. Their mission: to hit Iran's most heavily fortified and secret nuclear sites. On the ground, the earth heaves as a series of devastating, bunker-busting explosions tear through concrete and rock, striking at the very heart of the Iranian regime's ambitions. This is a scenario many have feared for years, and one that feels closer than ever. The world is holding its breath. This isn't just a hypothetical war game. This could be the spark that ignites a global firestorm, a conflict that pulls in superpowers and redraws the map of the modern world. Following major U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities in late June 2025, we've crossed a line many thought was untouchable. In this video, we're breaking down whether this is the point of no return. We'll analyze what led to these strikes, the terrifying military power that was unleashed, and the catastrophic chain of events that could follow. Is this the final countdown? Is this how World War III begins? The road to this point wasn't paved overnight. It's a path littered with decades of suspicion, proxy wars, and a shadow conflict that has now burst into the open. For years, the international community, with the U.S. at the lead, has tried to contain Iran's nuclear program through a delicate dance of diplomacy and sanctions. The core of the issue has always been uranium enrichment. Iran insists its program is peaceful, but the United States and its allies have long feared it's a cover for developing nuclear weapons. Recent events threw gasoline on this slow-burning fire. According to intelligence reports, Iran was closer than ever to a nuclear breakout capability, possessing enough highly enriched uranium for multiple weapons. With diplomatic channels stalled and Iran reportedly walking away from the negotiating table, the window to act was closing fast. Faced with this pressure, the decision was made. In late June 2025, the U.S. launched major airstrikes. The stated objective wasn't regime change, but a precision operation to neutralize the immediate nuclear threat. But in a region this volatile, the line between a limited strike and an all-out war is dangerously thin. To understand what happens next, we have to look at the forces now in play. The American strikes were a staggering display of military might. An operation of this scale would have been months in the making, likely involving over 100 aircraft and some of the most advanced weaponry ever deployed. The spearhead of such an attack would almost certainly be stealth bombers like the B-2 Spirit, capable of flying thousands of miles from bases as far away as Missouri to strike undetected. The targets were Iran's key nuclear facilities, Natanz, Isfahan, and the Fordow site, which is buried deep under a mountain. To crack a target like Fordow, fortified under 80 to 90 meters of rock, the U.S. would turn to something like the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, or MMOP. This 30,000-pound bunker buster is the largest conventional bomb in the American arsenal, designed to penetrate up to 60 meters of reinforced concrete. While there's no official consensus yet on the exact damage, initial estimates from analysts suggest these strikes could have set back Iran's nuclear program by at least 1 to 2 years. That verification is made harder because Iran has suspended cooperation with IAEA inspectors. But Iran's military should not be underestimated. It knows it can't match the U.S. in a head-to-head fight, so it has perfected a strategy of asymmetric warfare. This strategy relies on a few key pillars: a huge arsenal of ballistic and cruise missiles, a sophisticated drone program, serious cyber warfare capabilities, and a network of powerful proxy militias across the Middle East. This axis of resistance includes groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and various militias in Iraq and Syria. This network gives Tehran the ability to strike its adversaries' interests across the entire region, making the cost of any conflict painfully high for its enemies. The American bombs have fallen, but the dust is far from settled. The immediate question is, what will Iran do next? Tehran's response will determine whether this crisis de-escalates or spirals into a catastrophic regional war. One of the most direct and escalatory responses Iran has threatened is a missile attack on a major American base, like Al Udeid in Qatar, which serves as the forward headquarters for U.S. Central Command. A strike like that, even if it caused no casualties, would be an unambiguous signal that Iran is willing to hit back hard. Beyond a direct attack, Iran has a menu of other retaliatory options. The most feared move would be an attempt to close the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which roughly 20% of the world's oil flows. A blockade, even a temporary one, could send global oil prices skyrocketing and then trigger a worldwide economic crisis. Iran's navy could use mines, swarms of armed speedboats and anti-ship missiles to make passage through the strait, a deadly gamble. Then there are the proxies. Iran could unleash them across the region. The Houthis could ramp up their attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. Militias in Iraq and Syria could launch a sustained campaign of drone and rocket attacks against U.S. troops stationed there. And of course, there's the shadow war of cyber attacks against critical infrastructure in the U.S. and allied nations. The United States and its allies are on high alert, with a massive military presence, including 2 aircraft carrier strike groups ready to respond. The entire region is a tinderbox, and Iran's next move is the match. This is where we are. A regional conflict between the U.S. and Iran is bad enough, but the real worry is how this could escalate into a global conflict. There are several things that could set off that chain reaction. The first is the Strait of Hormuz. If Iran tries to close this vital artery, it wouldn't just be an economic act. It would be seen as an act of war against the global economy. The U.S. and its allies would almost certainly respond with overwhelming force to reopen the waterway. That could easily draw in other powers like China, which depends heavily on oil from the strait, creating an unpredictable and dangerous confrontation. A second trigger would be a mass casualty attack on U.S. forces. If an Iranian missile or a proxy attack were to kill a significant number of American troops, the political pressure in Washington for a massive response would be immense. That could shift the U.S. objective from just degrading Iran's nuclear program to actively targeting the regime itself, which would guarantee a long and bloody war. A third, and maybe the most dangerous trigger, is pulling in other regional powers. If the conflict widens to include direct attacks on Saudi Arabia or other Gulf states, the war could swallow the entire Middle East. These nations control a massive portion of the world's energy reserves, and a wider war would shatter global markets and create a humanitarian crisis that could destabilize the world for decades. Finally, you have to consider the response of Russia and China. They might not jump in directly on Iran's side, but they could provide military and economic support, seeing a chance to bog the U.S. down in another costly war. That would effectively turn the conflict into a great power proxy war, with Iran as the battlefield. The risk of one wrong step pushing the world over the brink is enormous. We are at a historic and terrifying crossroads. The recent U.S. strikes may have been a tactical success, but they may have also triggered a strategic catastrophe with no easy way back. The path to escalation seems frighteningly clear, while the path to de-escalation is narrow and requires both sides to step back from the brink, which seems unlikely in this storm of retaliation and national pride. The coming days and weeks will be critical. The world is watching to see if Iran chooses a limited response, if the U.S. shows restraint, and if diplomacy can somehow find a foothold in the chaos. The pieces are in place for a much larger conflict, one that could spiral out of control with terrifying speed. The final strike may not have been the one that just landed, but the one that is yet to come. This is a countdown, and we are all holding our breath. What do you think is the most likely outcome? Is all-out war inevitable, or is there still a path to peace? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this analysis helpful, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more in-depth breakdowns of the critical geopolitical events shaping our world.